Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy So, and welcome back to the channel for another episode of OnlyFans.
A Dolphins postgame show where we recap the game and react along the way.
This week, the Dolphins season comes to an end in the cold weather of New York as they lose to the Jets 32-20.
Be sure to hit that like, comment, and subscribe button, and most importantly, hit that notification bell so you get notified when we drop hits like this.
It's time to take a ride, y'all. Let's go.
Fans up in the building, rep the gear from toe to ceiling. 305 stays on the brim, by 95 we popping wheelies. On the way out to the rock, time to see the trio fly. OBJ, Tyreek, and Waddle, speed and swag solidifies. Tools, Babby in the pocket, got my D coordinating. With the Weaver operating, on the sideline formulating. Strategizing for that dub, let's get A-Train on the track. Chubbs and Ramsey, Phillips healthy, boy, we bout to crack some backs. Time to change the narrative, F off with all due respect. Criticism at its finest, break the cycle down the stretch. Top dog offense in the league, let's keep it going postseason. Bring that heat in cold weather, that's a Dade County reason. OnlyFans, presented by Sports with So.
And just in time to wrap up the end of the season, my boy is back. What up, my brother? It's good to see you, dog.
Great to see you, So. Happy New Year to you, my boy. Happy New Year to all the fans, all the listeners out there, everybody watching or listening right now. Happy New Year to you guys. I hope you guys had a great end of your 2024. And so far a good start to 2025. I know the Dolphins haven't had the best start to 2025, and we're gonna get into all that, but it's good to be back, bro. I missed you.
Yeah, man. Hell yeah. The show missed you, dog. It's not the same without you, dog. That's a motherfucking fact, man. It's not the same without you. But yeah, dog, it was a good ending to 2024, right? Because they had strung together a couple of wins, but the way these guys just started off 2025 was not it. And to preface everything, right? Like, you and I were talking about it before we started recording. The results of this game could have gone either or, right? But I think we both knew that Denver was playing well enough heading into the end of the season that facing this Chiefs team that wasn't starting Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, Kelsey, the whole gang pretty much. We knew that Denver's work was a lot easier than the work that we had to go out there and do on Sunday. And they did their due diligence, right? But when we focused on how the Dolphins played, right, and how they attacked this game, man, from the get-go, it didn't look pretty. A quick 3-and-out to start the game, followed by a turnover, and it's like we couldn't. And even when we got the turnover inside the Jets territory, we couldn't convert it into a touchdown. And that for me was a very foreboding sign, right? Like, yo, this may not go the way that we think it needs to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if it wasn't that did it for you, I know I'm kind of getting ahead already. It was probably the Achane run where he broke for like 60-something yards down to inside the 5, and we just could not get a push from our O-line to get into the end zone. And then again, Mike McDaniels with his little, sideways lateral passes to try to open up some space, and had to settle for another 3 points yet again.
Yep. And to kind of put everything into perspective, this was another game, right, that Tua didn't play. He didn't play the last game. He didn't play this game. The hip injury to his other hip, right, which is a very big concern, and we'll touch on that later on in the episode. But in a lot of Dolphins fans' eyes, they felt like a little bit confused about Tua, right? Because he came out and said like, "Oh, if this was the playoff game, I'd be playing, no doubt." And it's like, well, this is the playoff game because we need to win this in order to even have a chance to make the playoffs. And he couldn't suit up for various reasons, right? Maybe the team didn't allow him to. Maybe the doctors, decided against it. But his unavailability is really, really starting to hold this team back in multiple ways, right? Because no disrespect to Huntley, man, but he's not it. Right, he's not it. He's not a backup quarterback for suitable to what this team requires, and it showed on Sunday. Dog. He couldn't throw the ball down the field. He could not throw the ball down the field. And a lot of that has to do with how the Jets played us and how the wide receivers were playing so poorly. But I don't know, man. If we have to start somewhere, we have to start with Tua's unavailability because it really cost us a lot this season. It really did.
Yeah, I know he's getting a lot of flack right now, especially kind of how you just kind of set it all up. But, let's say, he did play that game that Huntley did win for us, which was a big win. Let's say he wins that one, and let's say he wins this one against the Jets, and we go out, on a little win streak, but yeah, we missed the playoffs yet again. You know what I mean? Like, does anybody really give him credit for beating a sorry ass Jets team and missing the playoffs anyways? No.
Yeah.
So like, he was kind of in a situation where it was like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Whether or not it was his decision solely, or if it was the organization's decision, which I'm inclined to say it was probably more so the organization that said, why risk it? You know what I mean? We know
Right.
kind of where we stand right now. We know it's a long shot. If it wasn't the Broncos, guess what? It was going to be the Bengals. You know what I'm saying? And they deserved it more, like flat out.
Absolutely.
The Bengals probably deserved that spot more, even more so than the Broncos, with the comeback that they've made. But it definitely wasn't us this year. You know what I mean? And even if we did manage, if the Broncos lost and we won this game somehow, did we really expect anything differently than what happened last year, which was a first round exit to the Bills?
Yeah.
Let's be honest, bro. I don't think so. You know what I mean? There's nothing different that this year that indicated that we were going to go and do something differently. So, we ended up where we were supposed to be.
Exactly.
And yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, but I was just gonna say, and at the end of the day, yeah, Tua's availability is always a concern. Obviously, and anytime your franchise quarterback, the guy you just paid the big bucks to, is not there, that's a concern. What I've come to terms with is that I'm not so concerned with his lack of availability. It's how does he show up, or does he even show up in the big games, in the cold games, which are late in the year, in the primetime games, which all eyes are on you, or even in just the games against a team that's above 500. That's really my main concern, because when he is available against all three of those teams, we haven't seen the success, and that's the biggest hurdle that I need him to jump in 2025.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, the drop off, right, from his level of quarterback play to Tyler Huntley's level of quarterback play is too big of a gap for this team to overcome, right? Especially when the guys that we expect to produce are not producing. Now, as I was watching the game, bro, I started taking some notes, and these are three concerns that I walked away with the most, right? Number one, Waddle's decline in production, right? Number two, the DB's lack of coverage, right? And they're dropping production these last 2-3 games. And then number three, like I said, prefacing this, Tyler Huntley's level of quarterback play. Like, those are the three things that I saw on Sunday. I was like, man, these are major concerns, because like I said, we're expecting Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, Jonnu Smith. We're expecting all these guys to do well, and there was only really one of those guys that played well on a limited basis, right? And that was Devon Achane, because he ended up with 11 carries for 121 yards. I think I'm gonna go like crazy beating this drum, but how we don't give our best player, and yes, Devon Achane is our best player, only 11 carries in a game that we need to be physical in, and really try to dominate the line, and work the way the game plan that way. To give this guy 11 carries, that's a disrespect to him and his abilities, bro. And he showed that with that 61-yard run that he broke out, and then later scored a touchdown in the fourth quarter. It's really troubling, because then I start to look at what's prohibiting him from being great, right? And it's the play calling, it's the offensive line, it's the coach not putting him in position. And it's like, dog, at what point are we gonna learn, right, as a unit, that we need to do more to get our best players involved early and often, no matter what? I'll give you an example. Between Brees Hall and Isaiah Davis, they had, and Braylon Allen, right, who are the three running backs that they have there. Those dudes had 20 carries, dog. And none of them had a touchdown. None of them ran longer than 20-yard run. Our running back is better than all three of those guys, and this guy only got 11 carries, dog. And he still was able to produce 121 yards. It's wild, cuz it's wild that he's not touching the ball.
It's almost like McDaniel's, like, he's sitting there thinking, like, yeah, they think I'm going to run the ball for sure. Like, they're thinking I have to run the ball on this down. He hasn't ran the ball in 6 drives. He's going to have to run it. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to big brain them and just not run the ball with this guy. And yeah, man, it's detrimental to, to everything, to, the time management, the, running the clock, running the pace of the game, controlling the pace and stuff. And being able to utilize the play action a little bit more for, a guy like Huntley who could probably benefit off of, the play action, or even, guy that is mobile, be able to open up the RPOs more so, you know what I mean? And give him some of those options. I know it's a little bit, probably riskier, at this level and all that stuff. You don't want to be running too much of that unless you got a guy like Lamar Jackson or something. But, if you want to get creative, coach, do it that way. But like, let's keep it on the ground. You know what I mean? Let's try to exploit these guys and use our speed. We have so much speed. Another guy that I didn't see enough of this year, and I get it, he's a rookie, we're easing into it, but Achane is here because he blew up in his rookie year because of the opportunities.
Right.
Jalen Wright. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Jalen Wright is one of the fastest guys on the team, and we rarely got to see him. The moments that we did, we saw little glimpses, but it's like, man, what could have been? I really think, besides obviously the coach and, play calling and lack thereof for the run plays, it's that O-line, man. That O-line can't get a freaking push, and we're dealing with, not just the backups, we're dealing with the backups to the backups. So right. We need to have a whole revamp to our offensive line in 2025. I think that's what the biggest concern going into the next season.
For sure. And not only the offensive line, but like the offensive game plan in general, right? Because how do you go from being ranked, number 1, top 11 in passing and scoring and all this stuff, and then drop down all the way to 22nd? Granted, I know that Tua missed the games like we alluded to earlier, but that doesn't give them the excuse, right? To be like, we can't get production out of Waddle, we can't get production out of Hill, we can't get production, you know what I'm saying, out of these other guys who are here. Like Berrios, bro. Berrios disappeared this season. You get what I'm saying? Like Waddle disappeared this season. Like had it not been for Jonnu Smith, right? I don't know what this receiving would have looked like. I don't know who else would have caught the ball, who else would have been scoring touchdown, like at least from catching it, like because it was just such a disappointment the way these guys have been unable to produce in games, right? And it's not even like we're going against like a top 5 defense in this Jets or whatever, but there's room for improvement, and there are ways to attack this type of defense, and we did none of that on Sunday, and again, I look at the box score after the game, and yeah, we threw more than what we anticipated, right? Because we're behind and we're trying to catch up. But throwing the ball with Tyler Huntley 41 times, like what type of success do you think you're really gonna get from that? You know what I mean?
That's unbelievable, dude.
Yeah, and look, and not just because it's Tyler Huntley. I've said this before when Tua was throwing the ball over 30, 40 times. You know what I mean? Like that's not a recipe for success this year, because teams have caught up to what it is that we're trying to do, and they took it away completely, and that leads me to the poll that I posted earlier this morning, right? And everybody was like, all right, the poll, thank you for everybody who voted, was about who do you think that we're gonna burn the most on the episode, right? And the options were Stephen Ross, / Greer, right? We'll get to that. Tua, Tyreek, or McDaniels. And for me, right, you have to start at the very top of the organization, especially with the type of statement that they came out with, saying that they're going to retain Chris Greer and Mike McDaniels because of the way that they work together and the amount of success that they've been able to put together, and blase, blase, blase. When I saw that, dog, from the owner, Stephen Ross, I don't know about you, but my initial reaction was, this guy doesn't give a fuck about this team. He doesn't care about this team being great. He only wants this team to be a good product, a good look in his portfolio, something that he can point to and say, oh, yeah, I'm one of the few billionaire owners in the NFL. Because there's no way that somebody who is passionate about football, right? Passionate about football and wanting their team to achieve success at any cost can come out with a statement like that, talking about status quo. Brother, the status quo has not been working since you've gotten here. And now we're missing the playoffs, haven't got a playoff wins in 25 years and counting, right? Because I don't know if we're going to be able to achieve that next year with all the questions that we have moving forward. But that if that's your status quo, sheesh. Like how much lower can we get? Like how low is that bar, right? Like we need an owner who's gonna fucking spit fire and say this is not acceptable, especially with the amount of money that I'm investing in this team, right? Investing in the GM, investing in the coach, investing in players, making moves, paying contracts, extending contracts. Like This is not something that you throw money at and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna walk away and worry about my investment somewhere else. Stephen Ross needs to figure out whether or not he really cares about winning. Because that statement to me, and I don't know how you feel about it, it shows to me that he's not caring about winning down here.
I knew you were going to feel some type of way about that. I mean, you've been calling for Chris Greer's head since week 3 of this season when Tua went down. Was it week 3 or week 2,
Yeah,
maybe? I think it was week
yeah.
2 when Tua went down. And then the following week, we had Skylar Thompson, starting. And, that was where you first started saying, hey, Chris Greer needs to be gone. Not having the foresight for having a valid backup and thinking that Skylar Thompson was the guy. Was a huge miss, and that's on him, and I know you've been calling for that. But for me, on the Chris Greer side of things, it's like, man, this guy's brought a lot of talent to South Florida, a lot of talent to Miami, both by trades, shit that we hadn't seen really in the previous generations. Right. As a Dolphins fan, going out and getting guys like Jalen Ramsey or Tyreek Hill, or by drafting big names like Christian Wilkins or Jalen Phillips, or even most recently now Chop Robinson and Jalen Wright. You know what I mean? The guy has an eye for talent, and that's kind of what I look at. Yeah, you can fault him. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has their issues. But out of the two guys, there, Stephen Ross and Chris Greer, I probably got to give more blame to Stephen Ross. Kind of what you're saying by coming out and saying that. You know what I mean? And we need to expect more. I don't think also it's the right time to just say, you know what, these guys aren't getting it done, they're out of here. It's like, well, I mean, they're performing, you know what I mean? We got to a playoffs with McDaniels last year. We can't forget about that so quickly after we had Tua miss so many games this year due to injury. And Chris Greer, again, he missed on the quarterback thing, but he's brought so much talent. So it's like we got to wait and see how this plays out. And, at least one more year, especially with McDaniels. I think Chris Greer's job is a little bit safer than McDaniels is. I think McDaniels' job is going to be contingent on next year's performance, frankly.
Yeah, I can understand that, but like here's one thing about Greer, right? Like, and Bill Parcells always said this. You're gonna put me in charge. I'm gonna buy all the ingredients to make the team do well, right? He's done a good job of picking ingredients here and there. We can't discount that, right? Sealer picking him up off Baltimore. Even Dotson this year, right? He's been a great addition to this team. We found A-Chan, right? There have been like Patrick Paul, like Chop Robinson. There are pieces that you can look at and say, damn, he's found some players. But can you put it together? Can you find the coach that can put all of this together? Because that's his job, right? And for all intents and purposes, everything I've been hearing between the time that the game is ended and today on the local sports radio is that while everything is great as far as who he's picked and how those players have come about, a lot of the reason why he's here is because he doesn't cause waves, right? Because Ross gives him the chance to say, you know what, man, don't worry, do your thing, pick the players. Well, we'll get by, and we'll figure this out, or we'll sign this guy. And at the end of the day, bro, what matters is winning. I go back to the line of status quo. This is our status quo, then, right? Not being a team that can excel or be one of the top teams in the AFC, not one of these teams that can continually stack up successes, right? We're a team that falters when it counts the most. We're a team that cannot win on the road when it gets cold. We have the worst record in the NFL when it comes to cold weather games, the worst record in the NFL, dog, historically. And at some point or another, dog, you have to say this is not good enough. This is not good enough. And that's where I feel like Greer has come up short. It hasn't been good enough to say I deserve to keep my job, because in my opinion, somebody else could come in here and take it to the next level and be like, this is what we were looking for. But we won't get that opportunity because our owner, right, doesn't like to cause waves, and he's okay with saying, you know what, continuity is better. I got a feeling that in the next X amount of years, these guys are going to be able to put it together. Meanwhile, the guys who are suffering, right, are the players in the locker room, because obviously they don't like to lose and be left out of the playoffs and XYZ, right? And more importantly, the fans, because we're not getting the return on our investments as far as being fans, buying the tickets, showing up to the games, watching the games. You know what I mean? Like, those are the things that we pour into as far as an emotional investment, right? As fans, and we're not getting the return on investment on that, dog. Because again, the lack of success when it matters the most has been the fucking nail in the coffin every single season. We've had good seasons, we've had great seasons with McDaniels and Greer, right? But every year or every time that it needs to matter for something, it always goes wrong, right? Or we're not able to produce at that level. I don't know.
Let me ask you this. So, I know you mentioned there was a few options on that little poll that you put up. What was the outright, winner? What was the one that we're going to burn the most?
Tyreek, quote unquote, AB Hill. Um,
Oh man,
yeah,
that's very disappointing. Like right in the
yeah.
middle of us going through what we're going through, and I say us as South Florida sports fans, going through what we're going through with Jimmy Butler and the Heat, and
Mm-hmm.
how something so beautiful, a relationship that was so beautiful and so flourishing, and we got to see so many highs is at such a low point right now, and then to see basically the same exact thing happening now with one of our most beloved Dolphins right now and Tyreek Hill. I mean, that's heartbreaking, dog. How did you feel about Tyreek and all his actions, him changing his Twitter profile picture and the comments that he made there after the game and the loss?
The way that I've been approaching this, that everybody's asked about me, whether it's been on Instagram or in person, is has been the same, right? You could have all the talent in the world, whether it's in professional sports, business, education, investing, whatever. You could be the most talented person. But how you approach your job, how you approach others in your profession, that shit says a lot about you, dog. And to preface the shit that you said about with Jimmy Butler, we've known that Jimmy's caused issues everywhere he's gone. Now that same type of theme is coming up with Tyreek Hill, right? Where he was in Kansas City and probably had some issues in the locker room and said, I feel like I'm bigger than the team because I'm the one who's bringing this attention. And then he leaves, and next thing you know, they win back-to-back Super Bowls, and now they're on their way to possibly a third Super Bowl in a row. When it comes to Tyreek Hill, yeah, he's talented as fuck, right? But if you don't carry yourself like a professional, if you don't carry yourself like a leader, if you don't carry yourself like a vet inside that locker room and outside that locker room, then guess what, bro? You're not gonna have the respect of the fans. You're not gonna have the respects of your peers, and that shit matters the most, right? Because those are the dudes that have to go out there and fight the battles with you. You know what I'm saying? For this guy to not play the fourth quarter for whatever fucking reason he wants to give us, right? Unbeknownst to Mike McDaniels, right? Because when they asked him about it in the post-game conference, he was like, well, they told me about it, but I was focused on the guys who were playing, right? And that said a lot about that situation. Tyreek can't come out after the game and say, nah, I'm out, bro. This isn't for me. I gotta look out for my bro. Fuck that. Your family's secured, bro. We just extended you for big bucks.
Well, his
You
family
need to
keeps
come out.
growing every couple of months.
He's got more than enough to pay that child support, my dog. And more importantly, if your production on the field, 2 catches for 20 yards with your longest catch being 13 yards on 3 targets, yeah, man, bro, you got to do what Pat Riley said and shut the fuck up because you're not playing to that level. And if you're not playing to that level, then you can't be speaking on how you need to look out for yourself because this is a team game and you need guys to block in order for the quarterback to have time to throw your ass the ball, and you're out here dropping passes and doing the least. And then on top of that, this is after he came out the week before, right before the Browns game, and says, I'm not getting enough reps, I'm not getting enough practice in, and all that stuff. I'm like, dog, in what world does he live in that makes sense or is acceptable? And then that goes back to McDaniels and it goes back to Greer. How are they running the ship in there to give this guy that much freedom to come out and talk? You know what I mean? We can say everything about Tua's lack of performance on the field and his shortcomings and whatever. But one thing that we cannot say about Tua or Waddle or anybody else on this team is that they make it out to be about themselves. Everybody has always come out when they lose, when they win. It's like, yo, the team. We got to look out for the team. We got to make the team better. Imagine if Tua had said something to the same effect of what Tyreek said. We'd be murdering that guy right now on all over the media,
Yeah.
right?
No, and
So
it's also the timing too, man. I mean, we
come
just
on.
lost, like as the fans, us as fans, you know what I mean? We just saw another disappointing season, and to hear you come out, and just kind of, say that, like, you just lost all hope. Like, what does that mean for us? You know what I mean? As Dolphins fans, you know, the fact that you're coming out and saying that the day right after the season ends, you didn't wait till the season officially ended after Super Bowl in the off season. Hey, you know what? I'm going to explore my options now in the off season. Now that everything's done, you know, I only have a couple of years left. Like, just the way you go about it, you know, you could have gone about it differently, a little bit better. But frankly, you know, it just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, and I lost a little bit of respect for the cheetah.
Yeah, a lot of respect in my opinion, dog, because again, like he's already come out and had different, like, I don't know, dog, just the way that he's approached everything this season has been very, very AB like. And it comes to a point where you're like, all right, is the craziness slash attitude worth the production that I'm getting on the field for my money? And at this point, it's not, dog. He's had his worst season, dropped the most amount of passes. It's like, nah, dog, you can't come out here and say those things because you haven't been producing. To give you the complete opposite of that, a guy that I called out earlier in the episode, Jalen Waddle, we haven't heard a peep from that guy. Not about his playing time, not about the looks that he's getting or the targets, like, or the amount. We haven't heard anything. Why? Because he's a professional. He knows he needs to do more. He's not doing good, and he's gonna keep working at it and shut the hell up until he gets it right. But we won't hear that shit from him. You can't accept that. And I got a feeling that a lot of the guys in the locker room didn't really like how those comments came about. You know what I mean? Even a guy like Javon Holland, who's in a contract year, he's not coming out and saying, "Oh, I need to look out for my best interest and whatever." He's like, "Nah, I'm about the team. This shit sucks. We didn't want to lose this way. We wanted to finish strong." Ba 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 ba. Like, those are things that you need to say, whether you feel about that or like that way or not. When it comes to speaking publicly, you cannot be the negative factor if you're not the guy producing, dog. You can't.
What are your thoughts on Jalen Ramsey's kind of cryptic message that he put out? I think it was an IG story too, talking about
Deuces,
knowing your
bro.
worth and knowing your value and being in the right place and all that.
Bro, here, you want a violin, my bro? Here's the world's smallest violin. You and Tyreek Hill can share it. You know what I'm saying? Go out there on the corner on the metro bus or whatever, dog, and play your little violins, dog. Because I don't feel bad for those guys. That's another guy that came in here, high expectations, high contract, high dollars, and continually has been declining year after year.
You think
know
so?
You
don't
brother.
think he's still playing at a high level?
Hell no. He got cooked. He got cooked this last game, and he's been getting cooked this whole season, dog. And I'll give you this point, right? He has 2 interceptions this year. 2 interceptions. Dodson, who's a guy that we got off a fucking cut midway through the season, has 3 interceptions, leading the team. And he's a defensive linebacker, dog. How are you not producing, earning the most, and still coming out saying you need to look out for yourself? Nah, brother, this ain't it. You know what I'm saying? Like that cannot be accepted. And that goes back to Stephen Ross, the owner, GM, Chris Greer, and how they manage their room and how they manage these guys. McDaniels is, I don't want to say he's a puppet, but he's not the authoritative figure in that organization, right? There's no way they look at that guy like, oh, he's the boss. If anything, that's like, oh, that's my big brother, that's the homie, that's whatever. You know what I mean? They don't look at him as this type of figure that's like, oh shit, we need to respect this guy whenever he's walking around, whatever he's. Nah, bro. And these comments are evident of that, dog. Evident of that. You know, if there's people in that locker room that deserve to speak out like that, it's Achan, right? It's Sealer, it's Calais Campbell. You know what I mean? It's those guys that have been playing year in, year out, and week in, week out, and doing the most that they can, regardless of however it comes out for them. That's real effort, dog. I don't know, dog. Jalen Ramsey, Tyreek Hill, they can both kick rocks for my money, dog. Get out of here, dog.
That's tough, man. I mean, you're talking about, two of the, arguably the better guys at their positions in the NFL, whether or not they're on the second half of their career. That's, we can debate that, but you gotta admit, those two, when they are at the top of the game, they are 2 of the best in the NFL at their respective positions.
For sure. And I'm not saying that they're that at one point they weren't the best, right? But I heard somebody say on the radio, oh, Tyreek Hill is a top 5 receiver still in the NFL. And I'm like, no, he's not. No, he is not. Because if you tell me who would you rather have, right? Would you rather have Tyreek Hill or Jamar Chase right now?
Well, I mean, you're talking about, second
The
Triple
best,
Crown
right?
winner since
Okay.
2000.
Would you rather have Justin Jefferson, Brian
Yeah,
Thomas Jr.,
the
Amon
height.
St. Brown, Malik Neighbors,
Yeah. I mean, you just threw a couple
CeeDee
rookies
Lamb?
at me that I might take Tyreek over just because of the experience, but different body types
Guys who
too,
are
height, length.
balling, guys who can ball week in, week out. You know what I mean? If it's not an offense completely directed toward Tyreek Hill, I don't know if he can produce like he's used to producing. And that's just a fact. You know what I'm saying? Because in Kansas City, he was the number one, and over here, he was the number one. And even to our own detriment, right? Where we force fed him that season, trying to get him to 2,000 yards, it was at the cost of everybody else. You know what I mean? So at what point, what type of return are you getting from that, dog? Especially if you're bending over backwards to kind of like please this guy and do what he wants, to then go into like, oh yeah, I'm not really feeling the situation. I got to look out for myself, and I don't know, I'm out of it. Come on, man. That's whack. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
whack, in my opinion, dog. You can't be top 5 guys doing that shit. Justin Jefferson was playing with Sam Darnold, who was a backup, dog, and he didn't mention nothing about that, you know? And they just lost a very important game to Detroit on Sunday, So yeah, those type of things really give me a bad taste, because it's like you can't be the highest earner, the least productive, and the loudest in the room. You can't do that, dog. You can't do that.
What do you think we can see in return for Tyreek Hill in some sort of trade?
I mean, we just got to look at what Buffalo got for Diggs, right? Maybe it's not the same, right? But I'll take a second or a third round pick in this year's draft or next year's draft for him. And the reason why I feel more comfortable doing that is because it's evident that this offense needs a big body receiver. Look how much Jonnu Smith was able to do work in the middle of the field, because he is a big type of receiver in that tight end position. We need somebody like that on the outside. I think we have enough shifty guys, speedy guys, right? One of the positives that I wrote down was Malik Washington. This is a dude that we found in the later rounds. Looks like he can be a really good asset, right? Do a lot of things that we can put him in the slot, use his speed, has great hands, dives for balls. I actually tries to come up with catches. So yeah, I'll take guys like that who are trying to make a name for themselves all day, every day, because these guys are playing with something to prove. I don't know, man. I don't know, dog. I get it. Things are still fresh, but you have to consider those things, because again, this is a 53-man locker room, and everybody needs to feel at some point on the same even playing field, or feel like they're all equals. And I think that Tyreek feels like he's above everybody in that locker room, right? He feels like he's the one who made Tua. He feels like he's the one who make Mike McDaniels and his offensive scheme look good and all that shit. So maybe he needs a reality check, and it could be outside of Miami. And we'll figure that out as the offseason comes around and shit like that. But you have to be open to trading that guy. You have to be open to trading Jalen Ramsey too and getting some type of return. These guys are both 30 years old. Their primes are behind them, dog. Let's just be honest, dog. Let's just be honest. Their primes are behind them. The third guy that I have to burn the most on this episode is Mike McDaniels. It's Mike McDaniels, because one thing that he's failed at over and over and over again is adjusting this offense to what the defenses are doing against him, and he continues to do the same shit and hoping to get the same results, which is the definition of insanity. And the fact that he can adjust his game plan to complement the best pieces of this football team, which is again some of the running backs and some of the guys on the more speedy side than Tyreek Hill. It leads me to believe that this guy is too set in his ways. Right now, granted, he's a young head coach. He's learning here, right? Because this is his first head coaching gig. So I get it that there's gonna be, growth pains and whatnot. But as a coach, you always have to be able to be flexible. And I don't know if McDaniels is flexible when it comes to his schemes and his game plans and what he wants to execute on the field, especially when you can't rely on the quarterback that makes everything work for you, right? If that piece isn't there, what are you gonna do, right? Because there's gonna be games where maybe he doesn't play. You know, McDaniels showed me that he took a step back this year. Not a step forward, not a side step. He took a step back, and you can point to tools missing the games and whatnot as a reason for that, and that's valid. But at the same point, it falls on him to be prepared for that. It falls on him to have another game plan, a plan B, C, D, E, F, G, and do that throughout games. And I don't think we've ever saw him make adjustments like that. And that shit kills me, especially knowing that there are other coaches out there who are able to adjust to whatever it is that the team is doing or providing at the time. It's a big issue for me.
No, absolutely. It's a biggest issue for all of us, man. But the honeymoon phase is definitely over with McDaniels. I think that, this was the season now where he really needed to elevate himself. And like you said, we think, he kind of took a step back. Whether or not that was directly correlated to missing Tua starting the second week, which is obviously the worst case scenario possible for a team that is dependent on Tua.
Yeah.
But I think that the third year, this next year coming up for him is going to be, the deciding factor of whether or not, he sticks around as our coach for, more seasons to come, or whether or not he's going to be, looking for another job. One thing I wanted to ask you, though, talking about maybe the guy's not respecting McDaniels enough or wanting to fight it, enough for him and all that. Do you think that McDaniels is more concerned with being liked than he cares about winning?
It's a fact. You know what I mean? A lot of the local reporters have covered this team since before he got here and the moment he did get here, and they all say the same thing. He's a very likable figure. He's too buddy with a lot of these players. You know what I mean? And I get it. You do want to have some type of camaraderie with your players, but at the end of the day, they need to know that you're the boss, right? Not their friend, not the guy who's looking out for them, the boss, because that's what your job is. You're the boss in that locker room. And I don't know if he has that level of respect in the locker room, right? Like, I can't see Tyreek Hill being yelled at by Mike McDaniels. I don't see that, right? I can't see, somebody making a big mistake, a rookie or a veteran, whatever, and McDaniel going up to him and shaking him up and saying, like, yo, what the hell are you thinking? You got to get better. You got to do this. If anything, Mike McDaniels is the guy who's going to be like, man, don't worry about it. Come here. Let me put my arm around you and make sure that everything's okay. This is not college. This is not high school. These are professionals. You have to treat them as such. And you have to realize that these guys are not your friends. They're not your friends, because at the end of the day, they don't care about whether or not you get fired. They're going to get their money. They're going to get their paycheck regardless. You know what I mean? So you need to have some type of respect in that locker room. And I don't know if Mike McDaniel can carry that respect on his own, right? Are there guys in that locker room that prop McDaniels up? For sure, right? I'm like we mentioned earlier, I'm sure Calais Campbell is not letting anybody talk crazy to Mike McDaniels in front of him. Now, how the team feels about McDaniels privately or when they're on their own, I'm sure is a lot different, because they went from the hardest of and we saw that shit, we heard about it with the Vic Fangio. Everybody's like, he's too tough, he's too tough, he's too tough. Oh, because Mike is a nice guy and he knows how to talk to these guys. Yeah, but maybe they need to get their ass kicked every now and then, right? I don't know if McDaniels can command that respect in the locker room because we haven't seen it, right? We haven't seen him call anybody out. We haven't seen him on the sideline yelling and getting angry at somebody. Like, we haven't seen it. And there's been plenty of opportunities for him to do so. You mentioned it earlier. This is the big year coming up for him and whether or not he can produce. But more importantly, it's how he is going to respond to this team and how the team responds to him with this disappointing season. Are they going to come out with a fire under them? Is Mike McDaniels going to light that fire on them? All right. Or is it going to be like, well, let the players handle themselves because they can hold each other accountable? That's not what I want from my head coach. I need somebody to hold these guys accountable, and he has to do that with, again, both hands, right? There's a soft hand and a hard hand, and you have to find the balance between both. But one thing is for sure, we haven't seen him be heavy-handed. And I think that's why Ross came out with the statement, right? Because both Greer and McDaniels are not heavy-handed guys. They're not guys calling people out. They're not guys holding these people accountable. If anything, they're making excuses for people. If anything, they're being a little bit too soft on guys. And that for me is like, it's not what you want in a football team. We've heard this plenty of times. Teams take on the personality of their coach, right? What's the personality of our coach? He's a nice guy. Everybody says that. Nice guy, good guy, friendly guy. That's not what I want out of my football team, dog. I need my team to be tough. You mentioned that first and goal situation when we got the turnover. We're inside the 5, and this team looked as soft as a Greek yogurt on Sunday outside 95-degree weather. Like, that's how soft these guys look. And that's a reflection on McDaniels, because we can't get in people's faces. We can't play physical. We can't attack the line of scrimmage. We cannot do that. Do we have individuals that can do that? Yeah, because it's in their DNA, not because McDaniel is coaching them that way. And
Mhm.
that's a big problem for him. How do you learn that? How do you change that? You know what I'm saying? Is he gonna do a full 180 and become this different personality? Maybe, and media made a lot about how he went from caring about his looks with the glasses and the jumpsuits and this and that to the not shaving. I'm worried. I don't have any sunglasses, no more designer shades, no more, $50,000-$100,000 watch. Like, all that shit changed as things were getting progressively worse for him, and they were calling him out specifically for that. So I don't know if it's in him to be that type of tough coach, but he's gonna have to figure out a way to command the respect, dog. He's gonna have to find a way, and I don't know if he can do that. I don't know if he can do that.
I wouldn't say we're back to square one as an
Mm.
organization, but we have a lot of work to do in 2025.
It feels like it though, Joel, dog, right? Because if we're looking at what's the future, right, and this leads to the fourth option. If we're looking at what's the future, how do things improve? How do things change? We got to start at the most important position, right? Tyreek Tua, Tiger Valua. How does he bounce back from this season? We mentioned that now he's dealing with another hip injury, right, on the other hip that he didn't injure in college. Now this guy has two bad hips, and we just gave this guy an extension with a lot of guaranteed money. What type of energy is he bringing? You know what I'm saying? How much can we count on him? Is he gonna be a tough guy and play through pain? Is he gonna be able to finish 15 games next year? There was only one season in his five career seasons that he's able to finish, more than 15 games, dog. It only happened once, which was last year. Other than that, he's missed 6 games, 4 games, 8 games, 6 games. Like, nah, dog. That's your unavailability is killing us. And you can be the nicest guy, and Tua is the nicest guy. Handles himself with respect, really comes out and presents a good image for this franchise, right? But at the same time, he doesn't have that toughness in him. He doesn't look like an intimidating figure. He doesn't look like when he walks in the locker room and says, "Hey, shut up," that everybody goes, "Man, get out of here, dog. We ain't paying attention. Bro, I'm gonna put this music up." You know what I mean? That's what I feel like Tua is in the locker room. And how do you change that? You have to be available. How do you become available? You don't get hurt. You do other things. You went from being bulked up to losing all that muscle and all this stuff, and then pay the price for it. I don't know. I don't know. And that's the guy that is supposed to be our future, which is tied to McDaniels and tied to Greer, because yeah, you could have picked all these pieces and all these ingredients, but you missed the main one, right? The main one is the one that we paid the least amount of attention to because we hoped that he would have been healthy and been able to provide. I don't know. I don't know where we go with Tua from this. And even like looking forward to the rest of the offseason and moves we gotta make. There are a lot of dudes that are unrestricted free agents. A lot of dudes that don't deserve to come back. I won't get too deep into it, but in my opinion, there's only one dude who deserves to come back, and that's Dotson. Because he showed that he can be a player in this defense.
What about
Um,
Brooks?
Brooks, I can give him a pass. Brooks, I can give him a pass because at least he's been one of those guys that doesn't do outstanding things, but he does his job well, right? I think he's one of the leading tacklers on the team,
Yeah.
averaging about 6-7 tackles a game, solo tackles, which is really hard to do in today's NFL. And he may not be a superstar, but damn it, that's a piece that we can have there and do good, right? Same thing with Dotson. I feel bad for guys though, dog. I feel bad for the Steelers, the Campbells, the A-Chans, the Malik Washingtons, guys who really gave it their all this season, dog. Every single game, dog, gave it their all and didn't get the most opportunities to do their thing well. That shit, it sucks for them pretty much, dog, realistically, as much as it sucks for us, the fans.
Yep. Well, we all suffer, dog.
Yeah,
At least,
brother,
at
but
least those of us that care.
yeah, for sure. But like, I'm me personally, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of being this type of franchise, dog. I'm tired of this, bro. Because there's so many things that we can look back and point out to, right? That we should have done and we didn't do. Getting a backup quarterback, maybe going after Harbaugh when we should have, firing Greer 2-3 years ago. Like, there's a bunch of things that we can look back to, dog. But we're here now. You know what I mean? And we got to look forward to what else can change and what's next for this Dolphins team. I don't see them being able to improve drastically in order to become a contender or even break this spell of not winning a playoff game. I don't know what the moves can be, but we got a draft pick that's going to be pretty decent in 13. We actually have more picks than we did last year, which is obviously great and is going to help the team out in the future and in the long run. But if we're worried about the right now is very ugly, especially with the feelings, and all the emotions that are coming out of the locker room. And I don't know. I got a feeling it's going to become worse as the season ends and more things come out.
Yeah,
I don't know.
there's going to be a lot more news, I think, in the weeks to come, especially after Super Bowl and all that stuff. We're going to have a better idea. So we'll make sure we do this again and have some more updates as the offseason
For
progresses.
sure. There's one thing that did come out of this game that was the brightest spot for the Dolphins, right? And that was John Smith really capping his incredible season by becoming an all-time, breaking the record for the most touchdowns in a season for a tight end. He broke the record that was tied with Anthony Fasano, and that just shows you that how critical a tight end was to this offense forever, right? And we never could find the right one, and we finally found the right one. And John Smith was probably the best pickup that we had in this offseason because he showed a lot of grit. The guy blocked his ass off. He was available. He didn't take any time off. He scored big plays. He scored big touchdowns. Like, I don't know what else we expected from that guy, but he exceeded every single expectation that anybody could have had for him. So I was happy to see him break that record.
Offensively, I definitely agree. On the defensive side, I'm going to say Calais Campbell was definitely, I mean,
Class act.
at that age, everybody's kind of just giving you, he's going to do something. But game in and game out, that guy was contributing for us, man, in ways that other guys weren't. So definitely those two guys were our biggest pickups. Hopefully Greer can continue to do that in this offseason. We're going to need it. We know guys are going to be leaving. We know Campbell's not coming back. We know that, Ramsey might be on the way out and Tyreek Hill. So
Holland,
big gaps to fill there. So hopefully we can figure that out.
We're going to have to figure it out fast. Well, they're going to have to figure it out fast now because me personally, dog, I'm kind of happy the season's over because I was tired of this bullshit anyways, bro.
Yeah,
I'm tired of, bro, I'm tired.
Tired of this, Grandpa.
I want this team to be good, not fake good, really good. You know what I mean? I want this team to be good, dog, and
contenders. We want to be competitive and we want to be contenders, bro.
They gotta prove it though. They gotta prove it, man. They gotta prove it, dog. What a terrible way to end the season, dog.
Before we wrap this up, yeah, no, that was probably the worst thing that could have happened was to go out on that note. But let me ask you this before we get out of here. Our season's over, but the playoffs are just getting started. Who do you think comes out of the AFC and who do you think comes out of the NFC?
In the AFC, it fucking kills me to even say this, but I really think
I know where you're going. Yeah,
Buffalo is looking fucking great, dog. They're looking great. They're looking great. They got rid of Diggs, and that offense kept clicking. Obviously they have Josh Allen, who's a once in a lifetime type quarterback with his size, strength, and running ability. But if it's not them, bro, it's Kansas City. I mean, but let's be real. It could be either one of these three teams, Baltimore, Buffalo, and Kansas City, and neither one of us will be surprised. On the NFC side, I really like what Detroit is doing, bro. And I think that that's a team that has the right mentality, has the right amount of toughness, has the right amount of offensive playmakers. We saw Gibbs go off for 4 touchdowns. Like, these dudes can put up points, dog. Everybody focuses on their defense, and they're nasty, but these dudes can put up points too, dog. So yeah, man. Yeah, I think that the Lions are the team to beat in the NFC for sure. They're the
that's the buzz. I know a couple of guys, and even myself. As much as it pains me to say the Bills in that, but a Bills Lions Super Bowl, it would be nice to change it up from the traditional Kansas City what we've kind of come to see in the last couple of years and all that. That would be a good Super Bowl, and there, I mean, I don't even know who I would give the edge to there at that point. I mean.
If the Lions make it, dog, I'm sorry, but I'm rooting for the Lions.
I'm rooting for the Lions for sure.
I want Teddy Bridgewater to get 2 championships in 1 year. You know what I'm saying? High school, and then go out there and go get an NFL championship. That should be wrong, man.
Dope. That'd be super dope.
305 out there, baby. We're 305. And we're keeping it 305 right here on OnlyFans. We really appreciate you guys sticking with us this entire season. We had downs. ups, more downs than ups, but we all got to share the good times and the bad times together. You know, we got to get this shit off our chest so we don't carry it around in the office.
That's right.
Or at least in our homes, right? Our girls give us a break.
Take it out on our girls.
Yeah, dog. But yeah, you know, like another disappointing season, you know, another ending to a Dolphin season where it didn't go out the way that we envisioned it in the beginning of the season. And I don't know what else can we do except for keep trucking, right? Keep rocking this OnlyFans. Yeah. Those are vintage.
Hang on.
Boy.
Hang on to those right
vintage.
there. That's all we can do is hang on to those, Papa.
Those are vintage, man. Those are vintage, man. But you know what? OnlyFans is vintage. Sports with Soso is vintage. We're gonna keep giving you guys these weekly season updates with the Dolphins, right? We're gonna do a wrap up of the year on Sports with Soso. It won't be an OnlyFans thing, but yeah, man, this Dolphin season, another disappointing end, dog, and it sucks. But at least I got my dog back for the last episode. Cause damn it sucked doing it by myself, dog.
Lonely.
Yeah, dog, it's lonely out here in the streets, man.
Yeah, dog. I know, but I'm back. I know it was a while. I had to go jet.
You earned that vacay. You earned that vacay, dog. I told everybody you earned that vacay, no doubt, man.
I'm back now.
But you know, yes, sir, and we appreciate you guys, everybody. Seriously, man. Thanks for trucking with us this whole season, hitting the like button, dropping all those comments, and more importantly, showing us love with the views, man. We can't thank you guys enough for being a part of this journey. Hopefully the next season is better. We'll be celebrating a playoff win, right? And we'll have some extra weeks of OnlyFans. But until then, you guys know what to do, man. You gotta tell a friend.
To tell a friend.
To tell another friend.
To tell everybody that they know
about OnlyFans, baby, and how real we keep it on the show. We're not those, you know, fanatics like, oh, everything's great. Nah, we're gonna give it to you raw. When it's good, it's great. When it's bad, it's horrible. So it's the real deal over here for sure. Until next time, for Joel, this is Soso. Peace.